Hi, I'm Raymond, and you're watching RPadTV. We have a fun episode, hopefully, about Star Wars The Acolyte, the latest live-action Star Wars TV show on Disney+. With me today are two excellent guests, two excellent friends. MacLean Marshall, who was clearly, out of the three of us, he was clearly the coolest one in high school. I mean, I don't think that's arguable at all. I would bet a large amount of money.
Not even remotely. And just as a pointer on that, on my driver's license, I think I weighed 110 pounds. So I was like the squirrely weird kid in high school.
Well, you played more sports than we did. I think I topped out at JV. Except
hey, I played golf.
Yeah,
and I lettered in golf 2 years.
Did you really?
Oh yeah.
Long as I've known you,
terrible at it, but
I had no idea you played.
I only just started playing golf, like literally this year.
Yeah, I was terrible at it. I was way more interested in eating Oreos and talking about philosophy with this guy Mike that always got paired up with.
That sounds cool.
Like I literally would shoot a 90 for 9 holes. Like I'm not kidding you.
Wow. So Mac, how are you this fine week?
Good. It's just getting to be that time of the year, right? It's summer. Summer's around the corner for the family, so everybody's like in just pre 3 days to go summer mode. So it's hectic but exciting at the same time.
I always find it weird. Like when I first left New York, it didn't occur to me that schools in different states ended at other times.
Oh yeah, totally. Even in different cities. Like I know people that they're literally already on summer, and it's like two blocks away.
Yeah, out here in Vegas, I think they've been out for like 2 weeks already. And for me, it was always around like mid-June when I was growing up. So, but I hope your girls have an excellent summer.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely going to be all beaches and video games, basically.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How about you?
What
Paul?
are they going to do?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. We'll be total strangers.
Mr. Paul Semel, video game journalist extraordinaire. What is going on with you this fine week?
Nothing. Just doing the usual, squirreling away here in the household, working on my website.
Yes,
watching TV.
Well, yes. Speaking of TV, we had 2 episodes of Star Wars: The Acolyte this week. I didn't know what to expect. I did watch the trailers, try not to read too much about it because Star Wars fans are intense and will detail like every millisecond of a trailer to the point where I don't want to watch it anymore. Like I already know everything because you guys do. But yeah, I was thrilled with what I saw. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts. Why don't we start with a thread-sized review of Star Wars: The Acolyte, the first 2 episodes. Mac, give us your quick synopsis on the first 2 episodes.
Yes, please. More.
Love it. Paul?
The first 2 episodes of Star Wars: The Acolyte show great promise for this space fantasy show.
You could write for TV Guide. Does that still exist?
I did write for TV Guide at one point, but I didn't write that kind of stuff for TV Guide. Yes, TV Guide does still exist.
Wow. In print or just like
I would love to know what their subscriber audience stats
in print. It's still in print. Because don't forget, there's a lot of people that don't have cable and we always think in terms of everybody having like all the latest technology and whatnot, but there's still people out there that they watch on broadcast. They never even went to cable. So
broadcast with the antennas and shit.
Yeah. You can get HD that way. So
you can. I actually do have an obscenely large antenna for when I need terrestrial TV, and that was strictly for sports purposes, which was stupid. There are a few games that are blocked on streaming because
you can get them over live.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this sounds exciting. The showrunner, Leslie Headland, who many people know from Russian Doll, she described The Acolyte as Frozen meets Kill Bill. I wanted to talk about the general tone of The Acolyte and how you're feeling it. Paul, what is the general vibe you're getting from the Acolyte?
Well, I can't agree or disagree with her assessment because I never saw Frozen. But it is very Kill Bill-ish in the sense that it's telling, and I think this is kind of interesting, it's telling a story that we've, at least so far, that we've seen before, where a bunch of people were involved in something really terrible in the past, and now somebody who was a victim of that is coming back for revenge.
Right.
At least that's what the first 2 episodes hinted at. Although, given that we already know that much, I don't know where they're going with the remaining 6. So they could be going someplace completely different.
Right. And to the Kill Bill comparisons, like she literally has a list with the names on it.
Right. Right.
She has a catchphrase when she encounters them, just like the bride did in the movies.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say in terms of the tone, it definitely doesn't feel like The Mandalorian. Like, it doesn't have the humor that The Mandalorian has, but it also doesn't feel like Andor. Like, Andor was way slower, way more serious, and way more 70s. It feels sort of, I would say, somewhere between Andor and Obi-Wan, but closer to Obi-Wan.
Okay, first tangent. Paul, when you describe something as 70s, what do you mean by that? Because in my head, I'm like, they were on cocaine and having lots of unprotected sex.
If you go back and watch some classic 70s sci-fi movies, like not Blade Runner, but Logan's Run, for example, or the Omega Man. Like that Andor reminded me a lot of that. It was also slower. Kind of, it had the same kind of slow pace as like the movie 2001. Like if you watch 2001 and then go and watch like a modern science fiction movie, you'd be like, holy crap, like they didn't really do anything in 2001. Like it's so slow. And that's what I meant by Andor having more of a 70s feel to it.
Gotcha. Although the cocaine and free sex would have made Andor really interesting.
Well, and there is one guy in the Acolyte who really looked like he was from the 70s, to the point where I was like, what's that?
The guy hovering?
Yeah, the hovering guy. And I was like, is that John Holmes from the 70s? Oh, wait, no, it's not. Okay.
He's wearing a different robe.
Yeah.
So, Mac, what was the vibe you were getting from the first 2 episodes?
I really liked a couple different things, right? I like the kind of methodical pacing that they're kind of doing right now. Just setting everything up, kind of introducing you to the kind of main players. I think one of the things that I really like is there's a little bit of a True Detective meets Star Wars vibe, right? Like I like the crime. I like that they're setting it up the way they're setting it up, where I like that it's dark, and I like that they're really giving you like a different feeling for some of like the actual physical combat skills of the Jedi in their prime. And that's something that we haven't seen done this way yet. And by this way, I like the kind of martial arts approach that they're taking here. It's very kind of cool to see it stretched a little bit further in terms of how they're doing the combat here. So I really like, again, I love that pace. I love what they're doing here. I love that they're setting up kind of like a murder mystery, like, and you kind of already know. I think they telegraphed enough, like, even in the first episode, you kind of figured out, all right, it's like the same person, you kind of get that, spoiler, by the way. But I feel like they kind of telegraphed that enough that, like, if you're paying attention, you kind of figured out that's what it was going to be. But they also did it in a way that doesn't reveal in this first 2 episodes. They don't give away a whole lot, so you're still kind of curious to see like what direction this is going to go.
Right. Yeah, I like a lot of the same elements. That it's a murder mystery. There's elements of Western kung fu movies.
Yeah.
There's, we already talked about Kill Bill, but that scene in the tunnel, I'm like, this is The Fugitive. Like when she's about...
A friend of mine that I was talking to earlier today also mentioned something I thought was worth bringing up, was just that I think because of where the setting is and just because it's a new Star Wars thing, it's nice to see new characters and new worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not just seeing the same old Rhodians, we're not just seeing the same old characters in the background, we're seeing some new pieces, and I think that's a good way for them to kind of keep it Star Wars but keep it fresh, you know?
Yes. Despite all the genres that we all just mentioned, to me, it still feels very much like Star Wars, even though it's doing different things in the Star Wars universe.
Well,
and
I've always said that that's one of the cool things about the Star Wars universe as a whole, is that you can tell all these different kinds of stories within the same context. You know, we've seen zombies and we've seen witches, and you know, you have there's been things that feel like a Hammer horror movie, and you can do like, you know, broad comedy and, you know, and whatnot, and not to mention like, I mean, in theory, you could do. I mean, I guess you have done musicals in Return of the Jedi, you know, but yeah, that's one of the unique things I think about the Star Wars universe is that there is so much to it that you can do all kinds of interesting stories. But that's one of the things that I like about the Acolyte is like they're taking a very common, at least so far, it seems like they're taking a common story and doing a Star Wars version of it.
That's a good way to look at it.
Slight tangent. Are either of you fans of Russian Doll? Are you familiar with Leslie Headland's work?
I don't. Which one was Russian Doll? What series was that? Or
it's the one with that lovely woman from American Pie.
Oh, I
Jason Biggs?
No.
She's actually in one of my favorite movies that I can't remember. Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I liked the first season a lot, and there was a second season, right?
Yes.
I remember trying to watch the second season and not getting as into it. But the first season was really, because that's the show where she like keeps dying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I really like that shit. The first season of that show.
Carlos agrees with you that we need a Star Wars sitcom.
Well, we were supposed to get a comedic Star Wars show from the Robot Chicken guys, and apparently it's done and in the vaults, but
for reasons unknown, it is not.
Well, eventually it'll get out. It'll come out.
It got benched when Disney. It was something that Lucas was doing because Lucas really loved the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials.
Yeah. Somebody will get bored. There'll be like a lull in viewership somewhere or something, or audience stats are just going to kind of take like a plateau, and then they're going to get the green light to put that out, get everybody jazzed about Star Wars again through Robot Chicken. It'll circulate. People will be excited.
I thought if they were going to do it, they would have done it during the strikes. Like when there was no production, you know, because apparently it's all done, and people who've I've seen bits and pieces from promotions of it, and it's kind of weird and funny, but
interesting. I hope that comes out one day. So a bit earlier, Mac was talking about the setting of the Acolyte. It is in the High Republic, 100 years before the rise of the Empire. This is the first time we're seeing the High Republic in live action. So there are things like, and on Coruscant, we're used to seeing the Jedi Temple surrounded by all these high-rise buildings. But in 100 years before the Empire, it was still mostly flat. Then you have this giant-ass Jedi Temple. I wanted to ask you first, Paul, because you are probably more familiar with the High Republic than any of us because you've read more of the books.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of the High Republic setting? Is it the way you envisioned it in your head?
It's neither the way I envisioned it and not the way I envisioned it, because what they're showing us just seems like your usual Star Wars, like it's another planet and this is what it's like. You know what I mean? Like they haven't had an episode where it's like in the Jedi Temple and you're seeing like what that was like. And there's sort of hints of it as being a much more opulent sort of setting than it was during the time, you know, even in the time of the prequels.
Right.
You know, like if you notice, like also like everybody kind of wears very similar, like white and gold outfits. And, you know, and by the time they get to, you know, the Phantom Menace, like that's not even a thing anymore. you know, that you don't see that as much. So it's difficult to sort of say. There's also elements of the High Republic books that have nothing to do with the Jedi, that have to do with the bad guys, and they haven't been in the Acolyte yet. I don't know if they are going to be. Right. You know, so
one thing I did notice, and Paul, tell me if this happens in the other books.
No.
It appears like the Jedi are spread out almost like, you know, how monks have different monasteries in different places, and each set of Jedi has their own style of Jedi robe. And is that something that's noted in the books?
They do talk about there being more spread out, and a big part of it is the Jedi trying to sort of make inroads into what's referred to as the Outer Rim, which is where Tatooine is and some of the other planets. Away, you know, if you think of Coruscant as the center of the galaxy, you know, the Outer Rim is like way out there, and the Jedi don't have much of a presence there. And especially in the early books, they're trying to sort of spread out to that part, and there's pushback. And actually, there was I wish I could remember the name of it. There was recently a Star Wars novel that is set as a prequel to The Phantom Menace, in which they talk about the fact that the Jedi have kind of pulled back and kind of abandoned some of the temples and outposts that they had.
Right.
Like, and this is like a problem that they were having. When
we see the Jedi Temple in Lothal in Rebels, it's pretty much abandoned.
Right.
So interesting. Very, very curious about that. I totally had another question about the High Republic and completely forgot it. So I will ask Mac what he thought of the High Republic setting.
I'm going to rip off what Paul kind of said. I like the fact that it shows the Jedi at a time when like they're almost equivalent to like, you know, space rangers, if you will, right? Like they're just kind of like essentially there's more of them in the universe at this time. They're pretty, you know, seemingly like commonly like, oh, hey, Jedi, like, welcome. What are you guys doing? It seems like they're still spread thin, right? There's not like they're not everywhere, but there's certainly enough of them, and they have a uniform that they kind of seemingly wear, like you were saying, like they dress similarly, and it seems like it's more orchestrated than the Jedi that we're used to seeing, which is like some shabby rags and some brown or you know light robes or whatever you want to call it. So I like the fact that they're kind of setting even there's like the scene where the Jedi apprentice girl is like flying above them in the ship and providing like essentially like, you know, get over at helicopter cover of a crime scene, right? Yeah. Like, and that's almost like a straight rip off of like The Fifth Element, you know, like with the flying police car kind of, you know, stuff. So I thought that was interesting. It's fun to see. Like I said, it's just a different part of Star Wars than we haven't seen before. But like you said, it's still Star Wars. It's identifiably Star Wars, just something new.
I remembered the joke I was going to make. I was going to ask you is Coruscant like the Salt Lake City for the Jedi, and then they have all these Mormon missionaries trying to spread their religion around the world? I don't know. This is kind of a tangent. I think I should activate that. I'm starting to have thoughts about the Jedi that I didn't have before. Like I never noticed how flippant they are with their mind control powers, and if this is something you really want,
and you can see on that note, you can see why that is maybe like rubbing some other folks the wrong way, where they're overstepping and the Jedi are too powerful, and that's kind of generating that little bit of kind of like negative feedback kind of circle.
And someone played a clip of all the times in the movies and TV shows where they use the Jedi mind trick, and some of them were like Qui-Gon just seemed like he didn't give a fuck who he messed with. And
I tried it on Carlos earlier to get rid of his cold over email.
Did it work? Let's see. Yeah. Speaking of, he said, I like that everything is clean. It helps you distinguish the time settings later on the line for newer fans that may start watching these type of shows. Yeah. Like before Coruscant gets all ghettoed up, and then eventually parts of it get gentrified. Interesting. Now let's talk about characters for a bit. In the first 2 episodes, Mac, did anybody stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a couple. So there's no doubt I like the main character, Amanda Stenberg, who basically is May, and then the sister, right? Like she does a great job. I think she's perfect for the role that she's doing. The ones that I really want to see more of are obviously like Master Soul. I think like there's just I don't know what it is about him, but just his delivery of everything that he says to how he fights is just kind of like I'm gonna make a little tangent here. I feel like what's her name? Carrie-Anne Moss playing Indara got a raw deal, right? Like I feel like we've seen that Jedi death way too many times where like she could easily fucking handle this, but like chooses not to and dies while saving somebody else. And right, like we've seen that sacrifice too many times. And I think, God, like that was such a cool scene that ended in such a like just to me like didn't pay off, right? And so that was one where I really liked her character. I was hoping we were going to see more of her. I hope we see more of her in flashbacks.
Yeah, I imagine
I hope that we see why, like, when like that, when she originally challenged her, everybody at the table just like laughs it off. She's like, she's gonna fuck you up. Like, what are you talking about, right? Like, you want to see that. And, like, I wanted her to have a more becoming death of the character that they were setting her up to be. And I thought she was really cool. And I think they've done a good job similarly with that with like the Master Soul character, right? Like he's very interesting. He's also clearly fucking badass, right? Like, so I want to see more of like what he's capable of. Because right now he's still playing the humble Yoda card, right? He's not doing a whole lot. He's just saving his energy until it's time to really fight. And you want to see when that's kind of a little bit uncaged.
How about you, Paul? Did any actors stand out?
Oh, and his Padawan, by the way. Sorry, that's all.
Yeah. No, she's great. I loved her in Logan.
Yes, I had to like look that up. I was like, where have I seen her before? And it was like, oh man, but she's another like again. I'm very curious as to like where her powers stop right now at that.
Oh, interesting. Paul, who are the standouts for you in the first 2 episodes?
Well, Carrie-Anne Moss, of course. I kind of disagree with you guys. I don't think you're going to see that character again. I think because Star Wars doesn't typically do flashbacks. I mean, even when they have, it's always been in the form of someone's having a dream about the past, like in the beginning of Rogue One, when she was thinking about her life as a kid. And I have a weird feeling that at some point it's going to come out that like they wanted Carrie-Anne Moss for that main Jedi role, but she couldn't do it. So they were like, well, what about doing this one badass for like a day? And she was like, yeah, okay.
That is actually not true because the showrunner wanted Jedi Master Squid Games.
Oh, okay. Well, then I stand corrected. Yeah, I was bummed that she was going to be that she's dead already. Like
it was just, man, I was like, oh, I wanted to see her continue on in the series.
Yeah. I also agree with Mac about Amanda Stenberg, I think it's pronounced, who I've been a fan of since this movie called The Darkest Minds. She's really, really good. And she was so good in that first fight scene. Like going up, it sounds weird because they're not really these people, but like seeing her go up against Trinity and hold her own.
Yeah,
I mean, she's not 100%. Trinity, but everyone's thinking it. So,
right. But she's Carrie-Anne Moss. She's automatically a badass. It's like if you have Charlize Theron in a movie or Angelina Jolie, you automatically think like, oh, shit's gonna go down and it's gonna be cool.
Or The Rock.
Yeah, or Keanu Reeves. Like, and the fact that Amanda held her own and then some against her.
Yeah, she just has like an energy to her that makes you want to like see more. It's a very like it's new to me. I've never even encountered her before until now. I think I read she was in like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, she was very young in the Hunger Games. She was in a movie called The Hate You Give, which is really, really good. But I also love that when she's playing her twin sister, she's got a completely different energy about her, a completely different vibe about her. And I know she's an actress, you expect these things, but it's still cool to see it that sort of in that way where somebody's playing sisters, but it's the same person and they are very different.
Right. When it's done well, it really stands out. Like this
Yeah.
isn't like Mary-Kate and Ashley playing one, so this is like
Okay, so
really-
who's a quick tangent then? Who's another good actor of recent note that you've seen play a split character
oh,
in a movie?
this is an interesting one.
Oh,
Like had to literally like flip the switch and go from
I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's married to Daniel Craig and she was in the Mummy movies.
Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
Oh, and what was the Constantine movie where she played her and her dead sister?
Yeah.
Ah.
But she did like a movie recently where she played like twins that are like surgeons.
Oh wow.
It's kind of it's sort of I don't know the name of the movie. I didn't see it. I just saw bits and pieces of it. And it's not that David Cronenberg movie where Jeremy Irons plays twins either.
I was thinking Jason Sudeikis when he was playing Ted Lasso, but then shifted into Lead Tasso. It's not even a good example, but it was the first one that came.
Terrible example. It's a very obvious example, right? Like that's great.
So that was not done effectively. That's actually the opposite of what we're talking about. My picks were two of the same that Mac picked. I liked Jedi Master Squid Games, partially because I love Squid Games, and partially because this is his first English speaking role, and he had like 2 dialect coaches or something. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty good at English. better than some people I work with.
Funny. Can I throw a special shout out to one other character, which would be the guy who played Kimir?
Yes,
who was like her.
That was my other pick.
I like how and again, we know nothing of him, but I just like how slimy he is.
Right,
like he's clearly a greasy.
Is that Manny Jacinto's character?
Is,
yeah, he's clearly just plays like a guy who's like just gross and disgusting and dirty and can get out of anything. So I'm curious to see what his character does.
So I also picked Manny and Daphne Keene. Daphne Keene is interesting, and part of it is because of the makeup, but she's I think she's like 20 or something, and Padawans are generally like early to mid-teens.
Yeah,
and I think she's doing a good job of playing younger.
We did some good camera work then too, because I feel like she's much shorter than maybe she is in real life. I don't know.
No, she's short. I think she's like 5'1" or something. But yeah, I was impressed with her acting younger. We see that all the time in pretty much any CW show, any show with people in high school that they're being played by 25-year-olds, and it's clear that they're being played by 25-year-olds.
5'1".
Aha.
Says the internet, IMDb.
And Manny Jacinto, I'm just psyched to see a Filipino dude in the Star Wars universe. I do have a interesting theory about him. One of the lines he said, he starts saying "peace is a lie," which is the start of the Sith oath. So I think he might be more powerful than he's letting on. And
you're not the only one to have that theory, by the way. That I read an article today that a lot of people think that he's that guy that Amandla goes and sees by the beach, and we don't see him, but he very clearly has his voice masked.
Right, the presumed Sith Lord. Who we will talk more about that earlier, but I don't think it's him. I think there's a small chance it's him, and he might be doing kind of like a Sith Yoda act, like how Yoda pretended to be this crazy old hermit when he first met Luke. So
I was going to say Kaiser Soze.
That could work too.
I mean, I don't feel like Yoda was ever pretending to be old and decrepit. I think that was just he just was whatever.
Right. But
he did die a few years just after that in the next movie, right? So he was pretty old and probably having old whatever his race is crazy person,
Yeah.
But when we first see Yoda, and of course I was whatever, 5 or 8 or at the time. I was thinking there's no way this guy's a Jedi master. Yeah, he's just but lo and behold, he was.
Yeah. Remember how awesome that was when you saw that first time you saw him move fast?
Oh my god, I I still think the prequels get a bad rap.
They do, but remember how stunned you were when you finally saw Yoda just bust out?
Flipping
You're like, all right,
around and
motherfucker,
shit.
let's dance. And like he just went nuts. You're like, what's happening right now?
Yes.
Like, that was
With
hilarious.
his little lightsaber.
Yeah,
And Dooku had to beat him the same way that May beat Trinity with the old distraction.
Yeah.
With
But
a
again, we've
victim
seen
trick.
that play so many times.
Right.
It would have been nice to see Trinity or Carrie-Anne Moss just have a much more worthy ending for somebody of her stature.
And she's a master, so she must be powerful. Like, why can't she save the guy with the left hand and preemptively block with the other one?
Yeah,
her opponent is still there.
That was hard to jump the shark there.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised if we find out she didn't actually die.
Oh.
And she comes back as Keanu Reeves.
So I'm going to preface the next section with a disagreement with Paul. I do think we'll see Master Indara in flashbacks.
Yeah, I'm in that camp too.
I know you said this isn't something that Star Wars usually does, but Star Wars doesn't usually do kung fu either, and we've gotten plenty of those scenes in this series. And that has been one of my favorite aspects of the show so far. The kung fu fighting, the choreography. Trinity even did a little bit of wire work in the. What I realized on the second viewing, that's actually like a ramen bar. I didn't notice the first time, but you see the noodles being rotated and some guy pouring.
How funny in the background.
Yeah, I thought it was like a Mos Eisley kind of place, but no, this is like a ramen joint. So like,
it's even better.
Yeah. But yeah, and Soul's fight was really cool too. I love how they're fighting so passively just to avoid and disarm, which apparently was something more Jedi-like before the Clone Wars when they became an army of people of all ages, when they send like 15-year-olds to die in battle.
Send General Pampers to go lead your army.
Yes. But Paul, what aspects of the first two episodes did you like?
I would agree with you. The fighting, especially in that opening scene, has been very, very cool, and I'm also intrigued by the story. I mean, like I said, it's so far it's a story we've seen before, and I know we're gonna find out what this terrible thing that happened, what it was and why she blames the Jedi and whatnot, and we'll find out who that Sith Lord guy on the beach is, and how he's using her, I think, to undermine the Jedi for his own whatever reasons. He's a Sith, he doesn't need reasons, I suppose. I think at this point it's more the promise of things that I'm sort of excited by. I want to see where it's going to go. I want to see what they're going to do with it, and
I want to see Yord with the shirt off again.
More guys with.
When we get to my gripe, when we get to my whatever the gripes are with the episodes, I'll comment on that one more.
Yeah. I'm also curious about, there were some interesting things that we saw droid wise, because I always loved the droids in Star Wars, and I thought it was interesting that you had the chair droids.
Yeah, those were weird.
That was kind of neat.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, and I also liked her little droid,
Pip.
Which I think is the first droid. This is the first time we've ever seen droids that don't move on their own. That don't have legs and can't go anywhere. Like, it's literally like a sentient tricorder, basically, for Star Trek.
And almost like a precursor to like Cal Kestis's little, like, smaller droid that goes around with him.
True, but Cal's could walk on his own. He could
precursor, like super, like again, early iteration.
Right. Yeah. Like he just sort of like jumping up on Cal's
first
back.
iPod. Right.
See, that's how I thought of it. I'm like, Pip is like an iPhone that you can talk to that also welds and can extinguish fires. And like, I want one of these so bad.
Right. Yeah. It was much more like a sentient personal assistant than we've seen before.
An old Sony Walkman. That's the vibe I was getting from
totally.
But Pip is pretty awesome.
Or like one of those really nice but old school like recording microphones, like the wireless microphones that you would take somewhere.
as journalists, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. But also the functionality of the chair droids is kind of interesting. It's like okay, you're a chair, but when no one's sitting in you can be the autopilot.
Right.
Which means that's like in the droid hierarchy. Is that like the bottom of the barrel where you're the fucking chair? If you have people's asses rubbing all over you all day long.
Well, you know that protocol droids have an attitude. We've seen that with like C-3PO. I mean,
I feel like a chair droid is real low on the totem pole.
I agree, because I felt bad for them. I'm like, so when you're not piloting the ship, people are like farting in you and getting their head sweat on you. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, at that point, when you do give them control, it's like, what's at that point when you get that shit on that often, right? Like, who's gonna say they're just not gonna fucking turn left and crash into the next ship or something and just end it? And they're getting a bad deal.
Mac, you mentioned earlier that we got to see some new aliens. Some are, I think, new, completely new, and some are new for live action. What did you like about the first two in addition to that?
I just think, I like that it was not just more of the same, right? I think in all of the Star Wars stuff, and they've certainly tried to like expand here and there, especially like when they switched, to the digital stuff and added more. But like, it's just nice to see a different setting. Like, I think it plays into that earlier conversation, right? And so, just to not see the same, characters, in the foreground and then off in the distance, in a different color, like it just seemed like they did a better job of kind of camouflaging and making. And maybe it's because like a lot of that stuff that we saw so far was also kind of, in the dark and at night, right? Like, so, but it just seemed like they did a better job of like masking, the whole community to look like a little bit more distinct than what we've seen before.
Right.
And again, like I said, that was a friend of mine gave me, kind of pointed that out, and it was more something I just agreed with, but I don't have any deep thoughts on any additional specific characters that we may have seen in like the background. I did like the Force Wookiee, we can get into that later.
Yeah, we definitely will.
That's a whole different part of this conversation.
Yord's Padawan, I don't remember seeing that species before. She kind of looked like, how She-Ra had that headdress? She kind of looked like that.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That was her natural, I guess, skin.
She seemed cocky, by the way, going back to what one of you were saying earlier. She seemed like she had a big chip on her fucking shoulder too, right? Like, and I think it's that attitude that drives some of the negative perception of the Jedi. Right.
I mean, they almost seemed like the teacher's pet kind of students, where they're totally by the book. Both of them, both her and Jecki, seemed like that.
Yep.
So that is an interesting thing. Did you notice the 4 Jedi that are on the kill list because of what happened at Brendok, which we still don't know about? These are all actors we've seen before. Of course, Jedi Master Trinity is obvious.
Yep.
As is Jedi Master Squid Games. One of them not so obvious. Did you guys notice the other two by any chance?
Well, I know the Wookiee is played by the guy who took over for Chewbacca.
Right.
Junis.
Yeah, Junis Sontu or something like that.
One of the Junis brothers.
Oh yeah, Joe. This got Joe Jonas.
Yeah, and I know the guy with the bad 70s hair. I didn't recognize him, but I looked him up, and he was in like House of the Dragon, I think.
No, Game of Thrones. He's Tommen Baratheon.
Oh,
so he commits suicide in 2 series. So, spoilers for Game of Thrones. I don't know
if you weren't caught up.
People die in Game of Thrones, like a lot of them.
Not too often, but just
But yeah, yes, Jedi Master floats a lot is what I've been calling him. Carla says, I like the planet hopping, the different Jedi garb, and the droids. Yes, on all of those things. I really honestly can't wait for a Pip toy, because I will pre-order that sucker as soon as it's on.
I'm sure they're working on that.
Oh, you think they don't have like a thing where you just drop your iPhone in it and close the lid and it's like an app?
Yeah,
like,
but
it's gotta exist.
I in my dreams it can actually weld and has like a small fire extinguisher.
Oh,
it's not gonna happen, but I would love an iPhone that can also weld a friend out of handcuffs or something.
At that point, you're on your way to being Batman, though. Really, I mean, if I'm taking it that far, I'm not stopping. I'm making the whole belt.
That's true. I would love that. Why doesn't Hasbro come out with that? So one thing that's being debated, because this is the High Republic and 100 years before the Empire, which even then gives them some wiggle room. It is not 100 years before the Phantom Menace, because the Empire did not rise yet. So there's still like a nebulous 15
some overlap, but nobody knows where.
But there are some characters that would still be alive in this time period, like Yoda, Maz Kanata. Wookiees have long lifespans as well. Do you think we'll see any characters from the movies and TV shows that we already have? What do you think, Paul?
I think they're trying to set the High Republic up as a separate thing. And in fact, in the books, Yoda is around and he's referenced, but he's not in them all that much. In fact, in the first couple books, they're like, they're like, "Where's Yoda?" Like nobody know, like he's off somewhere, and nobody seems.
He's a Jedi lawyer at this point in his career.
Yeah, he's like Poochie on The Simpsons. When they're like, "We don't know where he went."
He's Mr. Snuffleupagus.
And when Poochie's not around, everybody should say, "Where's Poochie?" I think if anybody turned up, it would be him, but I was expecting to see him in the first episode to sort of tie everything back to the old Star Wars, but
I'm glad they didn't, though.
But this is the thing. Since they didn't, now I expect to see him in like maybe the last or second to last episode as just like a cameo. And I don't mean like you're going to have a scene in the Jedi Temple and you're going to see him walking around in the background. I mean, like, I think he's gonna have a conversation with somebody, but
oddly, it seems like another green person is in charge of the Jedi Temple. Is it always the greenies that are heading up? I forget her actual.
Well, they are a very woke organization, so of course, it's the people of color have to have power.
I keep calling
Rebecca Henderson as Vernestra.
I keep calling her Jedi Master Lunesta.
Yes,
because she will put the Sith Lords to sleep.
Yeah, I think Paul's probably onto something. Like, I think I would like to hope and say that like they're gonna continue on and not do any cameos. I think that would be actually pretty cool if they didn't do that. But what I do think is that somewhere along the line, Disney just won't be able to help themselves. Like,
I feel very similarly. Carlos popped in saying that the showrunner said no Yoda.
But he did name the other characters that I think it could be too. Like it could be a Maz Kanata type, like just again a recognizable character that just kind of connects the dots, has everybody hold hands, and ties it together.
Right. I don't think. I would hope they don't, but I think they will, because there's a certain segment of fans that will be pissed off if they don't. So they're kind of, it's kind of.
I feel like Disney just can't help themselves. They think they're gonna think they have to do it.
I hope it's a minor one though. Like Maz Kanata's innocuous enough. I mean, doesn't matter. But who else would still be alive? Maybe Chewbacca would be a kid.
R2-D2 might be around.
We
don't have. I mean, we really have no idea how long droids last.
Well, 3PO wasn't built yet, so he wasn't around.
R2 was an astromech, so built for those ships.
According
they
to
referenced like the fact that astromechs are used to repair, spaceships.
Oh, that could be a hint. Good catch.
It could be. They could. Put him in. There's other astromech droids they could throw in there. Like
I'd rather see BB-8. BB-8 is much. No, not BB-8. I'd rather see Chopper. Chopper is the best droid in all of Star Wars.
He's a murderous, vengeful droid.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else. There also could just be some alien that like you randomly run into. That we're not sort of thinking about, because like we it's been established that some people live for a very long time, like the Wookiees and Maz Kanata is like 1,000 years old.
Didn't Mace Windu live unnaturally longer than normal too, or am I imagining that?
No, because he would have been what they call human, but obviously they're not really human.
Okay,
so
I didn't know if he had some elongated lifespan.
But some of the guys on the Jedi Council could be around, like the cone
long neck head guy.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned that 2 of them, based on their race, would still be around at that time. They mentioned Nar Shaddaa, which is the Hutt Las Vegas, I guess.
Right.
Do Hutts have long lifespans?
Hutts are supposed to have long lifespans. So Jabba the Hutt could be around, or Gardula the Hutt. The Black Wookiee, I forget, I never remember what his name is.
Black Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, that guy. He could be around. He'd be like a kid, probably. I mean, there's a number of people. I think they might do something. Like, I would think, like, I would have thought Yoda, but maybe not. Maybe they want to sort of but like I said, maybe they want to R4.
The red droid. That's what I was gonna say. Carlos is right. It's gonna
be. Do you want it to happen, or do you prefer it not to? Because both Mac and I seem to be in the don't want it to happen, but fully expect it will.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it happens in a very natural way, yes, but I don't want it to be like they're in the Jedi Temple and someone's like, "Hey, why don't we ask Yoda? Here he comes with his new droid, R2-D2. He just got him from the store. What do you say, Yoda?" Like, that's you don't want it to be like that.
Right.
I do think it'd be really funny if like remember I said earlier it's not going to be like Yoda just walking around in the background. I do think that would be actually really funny if like you saw like a bunch of Jedi talking and like Master Yoda walks by and they're like, "Hi Yoda," and they're like,
he high fives them.
Yeah.
And Yoda does like a triple somersault high five.
Triple flip high five.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't write this in, but Mac brought it up. We should talk about aspects that we didn't like about the first 2 episodes. One of the things we talked about during our Madam Web discussion was silly exposition, and there was some of that in the first 2 episodes. I mean, I know you have to do it with a new series with new characters that people don't know, but there are skillful ways to do it. And then there are scenes like in Osha's cabin, where all of a sudden Yord is like, "You came to the Jedi Academy when you were 8. You had trauma, and Indara wanted to kick you out." I'm like, that's a lot of information in 4 sentences, Yord. Like, so that kind of bugged me. Like, that could have been. There are different ways that could have been done. I don't know.
I didn't like the gratuitous. I mentioned it earlier. The gratuitous shirtless shot of Yord, and like. I mean, I laughed out loud when it happened when I was watching it. I was like, "What?" And like, there's literally like no discernible reason for it, and they even tried to set it up with the Padawan going like, "Oh well, it's just Yord." Like, it was just like he's just. But like, they could have, they could have made him be like super scarred, like he's been fucked up in battles before, like he's had a hard life. But this is like he might as well have been oiled up, honestly, for that particular scene. It's
always so pathetic how Hollywood has to like treat men like pieces of meat.
Yeah, well, really,
you know what I mean? Like, you watch a Thor movie, and I mean, you watch like any of the Thor movies, and Chris Hemsworth has his shirt off. You watch the TV show. I mean, every single thing that Shamar Moore has ever done, it's like, oh, here's his shirt coming off again. Like,
hey, Charlie Burnett is a handsome man. And
I just think for how well that the whole like 2 episodes that we've seen so far is, I feel like that scene in particular sticks out like just such a sore thumb compared to everything else.
On a practical level, he is handsome.
Sure, great.
On a narrative level, he's steaming his robes, which I found amusing. Like, that's the best tech you have in your clothes. And it seemed to fit in with when Osha first goes into her cabin, and Yord, who I think was pretending to be meditating just so he could dramatically get up and flip his cape. So him steaming his robe kind of like fit into the pretentiousness that I may have imagined, but that's how I see the character. I don't know.
Yeah.
How about you, Paul? Any dislikes in the first 2 episodes?
I mean, the only thing that threw me was just how bad of a 70s look that floating guy had. And then I was like, oh, right. Okay. It's the 70s.
He looked like, it's that he did like, he's the one who looked like a Jedi of old. like the most discernibly recognizable, because when they made the Jedi, they look like 70s Jedi, you know.
Right.
So he had that look for sure.
I just thought his makeup was bad because he's still a young man, right? Isn't he in his 20s or something? And he's playing this what appeared to be like this withered gray-haired man. I don't know if that was a
I didn't get the withered gray hair, man. I got like a younger middle-aged guy who had some good scarring from whatever happened.
Yeah. Something happened. That guy got messed up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they said as much. They said like, you know, that whatever it is that happened, like, has really weighed heavy on him, and he hasn't said anything for like.
So Carlos said they heard your complaint about men's physique, and they had one fat Jedi in episode 2, which almost
the other spy watching the door.
It is not this actor, but I thought it was Hot Pie from Game of Thrones. I'm like, whoa.
Oh,
Hot Pie became a Jedi. Cool.
It's a good resume.
But yeah, that'd be super cool. But yeah, I mean, for me, the complaints are just really small.
Minimal. Totally minimal.
Enjoying so far. Now, let's get into some guessing games. There's a lot of information we've been given in the first 2 episodes about a lot of situations that will be revealed in weeks to come, hopefully. Let's start with Brendock. Something happened there. There was a fire. Osha and May's family died, or they thought May died. 4 Jedi were involved, and they did something so bad that one of them decided to meditate and piss off. The other one went to like a Wookiee forest retreat. And Master Soul seems completely haunted by it. Mac, what do you think happened? I
don't know, but they also alluded to or said somewhere multiple times, I think, even that May killed my family. May started a fire. Right. I thought I heard that a couple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so again, you know, but May's also a clearly pissed off and was also surprised that her sister is alive. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. Again, this is kind of part of the fun of this show. I don't know what to think yet. And like, I like the fact that, you know, I think, again, I said earlier, it was kind of easy enough to figure out that like she's going to have a twin or something like that. Like, you know, but right now I'm stuck. I really genuinely don't know where it's going to go. And I think that's why I'm kind of excited to see what's next.
For sure.
By the way, I do have to throw out major kudos for the Macho Grande reference from Airplane.
Yes.
So, good call.
Over Macho Grande.
I'll never get over Macho Grande.
that was like one of the
George Zip
biggest influences in my sense of humor as a kid.
Oh, are you kidding? 100%. I own both movies.
Yeah, I love them to this day. And I don't know, it wasn't until really college where I found other people with that sense of humor, because everyone thought it was stupid. I'm like, this is genius and hilarious, and you're wrong. But
in my repertoire of like just movies of that caliber, like that's one that I own, and I could just at any given moment could throw it in and watch it and be completely entertained.
Yeah, I mean, I love that whole style with Top Secret, Airplane.
Those Zucker brothers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Paul, what is your
Police
theory
Squad
on Macho Grande or Brendock?
I also have no idea what it is. I mean, clearly the Jedi did something. They fucked up royal, and you know, the one lady really like seems to blame the death of her family on the Jedi. I just don't know. They haven't given us enough information to know what it is, you know, and I don't know whether that ties into the evil man on the beach, whether, you know, whether, you know, is he speak like that because he was hurt in that fire and now has to wear a Darth Vader like respirator, you know, maybe not. I don't know. I think that's going to be one of the fun things about the show is that it'll take a while before we find out. My only hope is that when we do find out, that we're like, oh, fuck me.
Not like the gas monster that was like, what was the other series where everybody was so stoked about who that
Lost with the smoke monster.
No, I'd be hot. That's fine.
No, in Ahsoka when they had that
in Ahsoka, right? And they had that one character who nobody could figure out who he was, and then everybody was so excited it's gonna be this person, it's gonna be that person.
Yeah.
And just cut him, and he like gassed out, and he's like, oh, he's a gas.
Just monster. A bunch of gas. That sucked.
So, cool.
Zach Morris loved our sense of humor. He is also a big Police Squad guy.
I think they're doing a new version of Police Squad.
Yes, with Liam Neeson. I'm curious to see what he does with that.
That's weird.
Well, no, actually, that makes perfect sense.
Nielsen for a second, and I was like, he's dead.
But that's why those movies work really well,
right.
Is because you had people that people thought of as being very serious actors, like Lloyd Bridges and Peter Graves and Leslie Nielsen. I mean, at the time that he made the first Airplane, people knew him as a serious actor,
right?
So it make having Liam Neeson be that guy. That works.
Not being somebody's angry, vengeful father.
With a particular set of skills.
Right. Yes. Well, but again, nobody thought of him as that until he did Taken, and everyone's like, holy shit, that dude's a badass.
So guys, let me share my theory with you, which will actually touch on the next two things. And I'm also like 90% sure that my theory is wrong, but it is something I imagined in my head and want to share with you and the world. So it seems like May and Osha are a dyad, which is supposed to be a tremendously powerful thing in the Force. So much so that's what brought Darth Sidious to life, was the dyad between Rey and Ben Solo. So what I'm guessing happened is that the guy on the beach, I think, is Darth Plagueis, who was Palpatine's master. And he was going after the twins for the dyad so he could be immortal, because Palpatine said that Plagueis had the secret to immortality. And the Jedi knew this was a danger, so they ended up letting one die intentionally on Brendok. So
that's a good formula.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a pretty good theory. I like that.
It's a good formula for your theory. I like it.
But I guess the question would be, can twins form a dyad? Because Rey and Ben Solo weren't related,
right?
In any way.
Oh, Carlos had this idea. What if they're trying to stop the Sith Lord? You're too late. I said it before you wrote it. Just like my idea of Spyro the Dragon game with Tyrion riding him for that crossover. I pitched that to Insomniac. They did not like it. But yeah, this is Carlos taking my answers again.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting theory. I mean, the other theory about the Sith Lord is that it's one of the bad guys from the books.
Oh.
But I don't.
Jar Jar Binks.
No. There's I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a character in the books who's like a bad guy, and like it could be.
Well, it's not a spoiler because we don't know. Like,
I don't remember the guy's name anyway, so
call him
Josh or something.
Darth. Was he like Darth Fred? I want
Darth Goldberg.
Yeah, Darth Jim. I don't know. Just have something. Let's talk about Osha and May. Like, they're trying to set one up as one is being good and bad, but it seems like Osha has a darkness. There seems good in May, like the noodle bar owner. She stepped down when she saw that he had a kid, so she seems sensitive to things like that. I mean, do you have any guesses as the true nature of Osha and May, Paul?
Well, I think you've hit upon something, that neither are good or bad, that they have elements of both. I mean, I think that her revenge is directly aimed at those Jedi. Like she doesn't, because she didn't kill anybody else. Like, if I remember correctly, like, I think she doesn't want to kill anybody else. So, there's a difference between being evil and wanting
and being vengeful.
And being vengeful. That's a good way to put it. So yeah, I think we'll find as the series goes on that those two have more in common than we realize.
Do you think OSHA missed when she shot it?
I do.
May. Do you think she missed on purpose, or do you think she's just a shitty shot, like a funny Star Wars joke?
I mean, she was trained as a Jedi, so I can't imagine she would suck that much at shooting. And Saul said she's used one of these before, so I think that was completely intentional.
Yeah, I think that too. I mean, like,
she missed on purpose.
Yeah, because if you just found, I mean, it makes perfect sense. If you just found out that your sister, twin sister, who you thought was dead, and who
you also blame for killing your family,
right?
True.
So let's say there's a
family murder ruins Christmas. So
there's Dan Semel that burned down your house and killed your dog when you were 4. And you thought Dan Semel died in that fire. And Dan Semel appeared when you were at Langer's. Would you shoot him? Would you throw a sandwich at him? Or
well, there's a big difference between shooting someone and throwing a sandwich at him.
I'd throw a sandwich at a lot of people.
I would not throw a Langer sandwich.
I would not throw a Langer sandwich. No, I would throw someone else's Langer. I'd be like, "Is that number 19? No, it's not." It's like, you got corned beef?
Hey, I get the corned beef.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it also could have been that she was just thrown by seeing her sister. I mean, if you thought your sister was dead this whole time, and all of a sudden she turns up, like, you might not be able to shoot straight either.
Or she has a future as a stormtrooper.
Right. So, sign her up.
Yes. I like the cut of your jib, young lady. let's get you in uniform. So the Sith Lord, do you have any theories on him or her? Or do you have any wants? Like, I would love it to be Manny Jacinto's character, but I don't think that's the case. I don't know. How about you, Mac? Do you think it's?
I'm gonna try and will it into existence, but jumping on your bandwagon and hoping, for the sake of hope, that it is Manny Jacinto's character. Again, this is one of those areas where, like, I'm definitely a Star Wars fan. I know a lot more than the average Joe, but I certainly do not know as much as some of the experts by any stretch of the imagination. So this is, like, kind of in the outskirts of my realm of knowledge, but, like, I can't imagine, beyond who you already said, like, is it Darth Plagueis? Is it somebody else that has been mentioned in the past? And like, who could it be? I guess I have no idea.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they don't.
I'm still just excited about Force Wookiee. So
the character is not given a credit. So the beach Sith Lord, he's the Lord of the Beach, I guess. So he could be anyone. So I like that we don't know. I mean, that's, as you're saying, Mac, that's part of the fun. And you, Paul, any theories on Beach
What if
Lord?
it's Master Soul?
Oh, David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, hold on. Let's going back to willing things into existence.
Sorry, Manny.
Sam Henderson.
Ooh, what if it is Soul? Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I the only thing is I kind of don't, like you said, I don't want a repeat of that, like, steamy guy, that everybody was like, who is it? Is it this person? Is it that person? And then it turns out to be, like, nobody. You're like,
although that would crack me up if he just turned out to be a bunch of gas as well.
Oh my god, would that be the funniest ending? And then it just, like, boop, 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 woo, and then it's out, like the credits. One other thing that I kind of noticed was when Kate Moss is not Kate Moss. When, like,
wait, Kate Moss is in it.
When Indara, like, when she pulled down her mask and saw her face in that fight, do you think Master Indara knew which sister it was? Because she seemed to be, like, in a tone of, like, bitch, you don't want to do this shit. And she knew, like, and Dara knew right away, almost in my opinion, which
I agree.
sister it was and why she was there.
So if you watch that scene, she moves her hair to see if that white tattoo is there. But then May's like, no, fuck you. I'm going to show it to you myself. And she flips her hair to show that tattoo. So, I mean, it seems obvious that they're going to, May and Osha are going to have some physical confrontation, and May's head tattoo and Osha's arm tattoo will be, you know, the distinguishing features.
Got it. Yeah.
I think she would also be able to tell from the Force that it's not Osha.
Although this dyad stuff, it's like vague and powerful, and it seems like it could be a MacGuffin for anything you want it to be.
Maybe.
Oh.
Get used to the word MacGuffin.
Aha. I almost said MacGyver. I'm like, wait, that's not the right one. Like Pip would.
So you think the Sith Lord is Richard Dean Anderson?
Hey, that'd be cool. Or what's Beastmaster's real name again? Mark Singer.
Mark Singer.
That would be awesome.
How funny would it be if it was somebody actually like really famous? Like if it was like Patrick Stewart or Ryan Reynolds or
it's like that episode. It's like basically the next episode of The Mask Unveiled or whatever.
Right. It's George Clooney.
The Masked Sith Lord. That could be the new
Sith Lord edition.
That sounds like a Robot Chicken sketch.
It does.
that would get rejected.
So let's talk about the remaining 6 episodes.
There's only 6 more.
Yeah, I think there are 8 listed.
Doesn't feel like enough. I don't like these 8 episode stretches. It always feels like it's just not enough.
So Leslie Headland said that she thinks the oh shit episode for everyone will be episode 5. I just wanted to see what you guys wanted and hoped for the remaining 6. Mac, kick it off.
I want to see Jedi Wookiee. Like I have one singular goal for the rest of the series. And I don't just want to see Jedi Wookiee who can like move rocks. I want to see Jedi Wookiee who rips people in half. Like that. I don't know. We're not going to get it, right? Like I know that's not going to happen because he's a Jedi and he's not about ripping people in half. But Wookiees are strong, man. And I'm just saying, he's hiding. He might have drifted a little bit further away from the Force than we wanted to. I just kind of want to see real awesome Jedi Wookiee strength.
I mean, they teased that when they showed that scene at the end with Kel Naka, where he pulls the gun with the Force and then he does the Wookiee thing where he just snaps it
now. But just again, back to my initial comments. Yes, please, more. Like I want to see that, but just give me a next level Wookiee fucking fight scene. Like that just shows why people fear them so much when they're angry.
Yeah, they always
by the way, on that tangent, like the way they tried to do it in Solo with how Han and Chewie met, still didn't deliver that like holy shit like kind of feeling that you want to see. And now you add like a Jedi level set powers set to a Wookiee, and I think you have the recipe to do it right. But that's what I want to see.
I mean, they could rip arms off of people naturally if you have the Force.
It's not. I mean, look at like the ripping and tearing, right? Like that'd be hilarious, but it's not going to happen. But I still think that anger, like when Chewie sees Han Solo get shot and just loses his shit, I want to see that mentality, but like the Jedi Wookiee level version of it.
Ooh, now I want to see that too. That sounds.
I want to see that too, but I also want to see him use a lightsaber. Yeah, and I want him to have some kind of unique lightsaber. Like I don't know what.
Like exactly. It doesn't burn fur. Like he just shows you. Look at it.
No, I don't know, but like something. Like I want him to have like
maybe a special design.
Well, if you play the Star Wars Jedi game, at one point he gets this really long lightsaber. And it takes a lot
to, like the giant Excalibur.
And I would love to see that. Like I'd love to see him like maybe have the equivalent of like a lightsaber broadsword, you know, like a 2-hand, like you have to use it like
well, a lightsaber / bowcaster. Interesting.
It shoots lightsabers at people.
Yeah, they did that in Rick and Morty. Sorry.
In Ahsoka, Ray Stevenson had a broadswordish.
Yeah, he had a much bigger lightsaber and fighting style that.
But you're thinking even bigger because it's a Wookiee.
Yeah, because he's. Well, you think about it, like Yoda's was small because he was small. Everybody else's is human size. Like I'd like to see him like a two-hand, like a lightsaber that has to be like two-handed.
Well, we will see in the comics. Master Lunesta has a light whip kind of deal, and we're supposed to see that.
We're supposed to see that at some point.
But this is force sensitive nipples.
This is supposed to be like against a Jedi rule or something that lightsabers are not supposed to be constructed this way. I don't know why.
Right.
But a light whip sounds interesting. But I'm hoping to see more awesome kung fu. We got a little bit of wire work with Trinity's fight scene, and I hope we get more wire work. I love that we're getting a whole different kind of fight scene in Star Wars.
I love Master Soul, like just his whole calm. Like I said this before, he wasn't even fighting; he was just interrogating at that point. He was just asking questions and getting answers through anger, right? Like, and it was fantastic.
His whole vibe reminded me of something you said in our Madam Web discussion when remember the wise spider person in Peru? You were saying he lacked the gravitas for that role.
Yes.
And I'm like, Master Soul has the gravitas, even though this is his first English project, which just his presence and the way he delivers, the pace he delivers, the way he moves. I'm like, okay, this guy's cool. So yeah, I'm digging Jedi Master Squid Games. Very cool stuff. Now let us get out of here on this. The first two episodes were called The Lost/Found, Revenge/Justice. The Acolyte logo has like the O on it is like two circles. So they seem to be playing up this twin thing, possibly the dyad thing. And it reminded me, the episode titles reminded me of Face Off. So, which I love. I think that's a fantastic movie.
It's a great movie.
But when they go to the LA Convention Center, I'm like, they're going to E3. Like, why? That's only for us. But do you have any guesses for future episode titles or any of your own that you'd like to see? Like it's not going to happen, but I would love for episode 8 to be like fuck/off. Like, I think that would be hilarious.
Load, reload, use your illusion 1 and 2.
Nice Wookiee, murder Wookiee.
Ooh. I don't know. And if you have any out there, if you're watching live,
there's a lot of jokes you can make in this one.
Yeah, there's too many.
It's an overload. Well, then I guess we will call that a day then. Let's go with some quick parting thoughts. Mac, last word on the Acolyte.
I want more. Again, I'm so hooked on the Force Wookiee. That literally is my new favorite thing. And even in what was the last the other series where they had like the really badass Wookiee bounty hunter.
Paul mentioned him in
Boba Fett.
Like that again. Like I don't know what it is, but like they throw it in, and all of a sudden everything's better with Wookiee. So I think that's where my head's at.
Although they changed his name slightly for the show because he is originally in the comics I think it was the Dr. Astra series.
Yeah,
where
Dr.
Afra. He's black, whatever, Black Chrysanthemum. That's not his real name, but they just call him Chrysanthemum in Book of Boba Fett. I'm like, oh, it can't be black now? You got a problem with that? You got to take away a Wookiee's color? This is racist.
So I don't know what it is, but Wookiees make things better, and I'm glad it's here, and I want to see more.
Paul.
Yeah. What I would say right now, this show for me is coming in on par with Obi-Wan. I'm not liking it as much as The Mandalorian, but then again, we're talking 2 episodes versus what, 30.
Right.
And I am liking it a lot more than Andor. So that's like where it's coming in for me.
So you kicked off your comment with a perfect setup when you said right now, because immediately I thought of Van Halen or Van Hagar. Van Hagar right now.
Oh, okay.
Was that Crystal Pepsi that they used the commercial? I want more scenes to start with song lyrics. If you remember the scene with Saul and the Younglings, he starts that scene with "Close Your Eyes," and I started thinking of the Beatles already. Like, is he going to break out in song? It's like
close your eyes.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Bangles too. You know.
That could work too. I am a big Bangles fan, especially of Susanna and her solo career too. But yeah, I want more scenes to start with song lyrics and also just more kung fu. And that is a wrap. Guys, if you watched the first 2 episodes of Star Wars The Acolyte, leave your thoughts in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of the first 2 shows. If you didn't and watch this, well, you should go watch them instead of listening to other people talk about watching them.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yes, and stay tuned. I hope next week, I will have an interview with a very interesting Filipino person in the guitar world, because June is Filipino Heritage Month. Thank you for watching RPadTV, and we will see you next time. Bye.